Welcome to Season 8 of the Charity Matters podcast. I'm Heidi Johnson, nonprofit founder, lifelong helper, and your host. I've been interviewing modern day heroes for over a decade with my blog, and I'm so excited to be sharing these inspiring conversations on our podcast. Join me as we learn the challenges and stories of innovators, entrepreneurs, and modern day heroes who set out to solve the problems of humanity. Have you ever thought about unhoused children and how they get into school without papers, without clothes, without documentation? Well, today's guest is no stranger to this fact. Kate Kennedy is the founder of the Ainsley School, and I am so excited to share her amazing journey and our inspirational conversation about what she's doing to change that for all of these children and to make a difference in our world. I'm so excited to have our guest today, Kate Kennedy, who is the founder of the Ainsley School. Welcome, Kate. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. It's an honor to be here.
I'm so excited to have you, and I feel a little bit of blindside in your story. So I'm really excited to kind of get into and talk about it. I have a kind of a secret thing with Leanne Tui. I've been told that she's my spirit, my
Oh,
soul sister. People who know her,
yes.
I don't know her, but anyway. So, but I'm really excited to learn more about you and your story, and to share a lot of it with our audience. So before we dig in, why don't you just tell us a little bit about what the Ainsley School does?
Yeah, so the Ansley School is a tuition-free private school for children in Atlanta who are without housing.
Wow.
And it's children without housing just fall through the cracks of our system all over the world in just numbers that are just astonishing. And if you don't get a good education, there's just no way that you're going to be able to have a successful life.
Right.
So we take the kids and the goal is to, we say, to take them, let them write the story of their own success beyond their circumstance. And so that's what we set out to do.
I love that. Well, I'm excited to hear a little bit more about your story and share your story with what I know with our audience today. So I think, people don't just wake up and start a nonprofit. Or a school, which is both, but there's a whole lot of pieces that go into making that pie and what that looks like. And it's a long journey. But so
Yes.
let's start kind of at the beginning when you were growing up. Did you have a really philanthropic family, or did you have great role models? Or, I mean, it doesn't just come out of nowhere. Seeds were planted in your path somewhere that sprouted. So tell me a little bit about that.
It's so interesting because there's an exercise that you can do that I've done several times in my life where you kind of draw out a timeline of your life and then you
Right.
mark like just things that you remember. And you can very clearly see a love of service and community building that just flows right, no matter what I'm doing, there's always some component of that in it. And it definitely came from my parents. My mother passed away a few years back, and I remember people that didn't know her, that didn't know me, reading her obituary and saying, "Well, it's you. That's you. Oh, now I understand
You
why
see
you
where,
are what you
right?
are." And because my mom was she was always in the community doing something, and so it just kind of is how I grew up. It's sort of in my DNA, I guess.
Well, I love that. And I love that not only obviously for you, I was blessed that same way, but I think for people listening that are raising kids, or to know how important it is to plant that seed, no matter how small. And sometimes
Yes.
it takes off right away, and sometimes it's a long, slow, late bloom, but it does happen. And when I talk to founders like you, I see that thread of what their family or their early childhood, something happened that it just kind of set those wheels in motion.
Yeah.
So I think it's really interesting. But back to kind of the founding piece, because
Mhm.
like I said, you don't wake up and start a nonprofit. I've interviewed hundreds and hundreds, maybe thousands of nonprofit founders, and not one person when they were a child said, "When I grow up, I want to be a founder." None of them. There's a series of things that happen, but almost every single person that I talk to um, can say the moment where something was like Shazam, wow, I need to act this, wow, wow, like something just as a catalyst that drives you to do this somewhat insane
Yes.
thing, somewhat unexpected thing. In almost all cases, it's an unexpected turn of
Yes.
events in your life path. And so talk to us about like the road, the moment, and kind of how that all started.
Yeah,
Starting
and I
school.
do. I remember it, just precisely and very vividly. So I stayed home with my kids for 20 years. And before that, I was a writer for television, and I was also I worked in a church. I transitioned from a career in television to working at a church with the teenagers there. So through that work, I had been doing a lot of community service in Atlanta, and just a lot of volunteering on a lot of boards, especially working a lot with the unhoused population and the agencies that serve that population. And so then I had been home. Fast forward, I had been home with my kids for 20 years, still doing that work on a volunteer basis. And I have four children, and my second son is neurodivergent. He's got some pretty significant learning disabilities. And it's been a struggle for me to get him through school, and not let him fall through the cracks. With
Right,
all my resources, with all of my, we have resources, we have opportunity, with all of my networks. And he went to a specialized program that cost a lot of money, and I still had to advocate for him every single day so that he could, progress through school.
right.
And so all that kind of came together when I was driving down a street in downtown Atlanta one day, and I passed a woman who was sitting on the side of the road. She had her head in her hands. She had four little children running around her. One didn't have any shoes on, one didn't have a shirt on. And I just thought, how does she do it? I don't know. It just struck me. And this was a road I drove down all the time. And it was a road that had a lot of unhoused families, and people milling around on it. But
Right,
for some reason, I noticed this woman, and I just thought, how does she do it? I'm exhausted, and I've
right,
got all kinds of backup. And
right.
and then I started thinking about my son, and I thought, oh my gosh, what if one of her children has some of the same issues that my son has? I mean, he's about to fall through the cracks in this fancy private school.
Right.
I don't know how she does it. And literally it just took hold of me, and I couldn't not do it. I just could not
I
do it.
mean, it's like a lightning bolt moment, right? I mean,
Yeah.
and everyone can recall the moment where the dots connect.
Yes.
And I hear you. Two of my three sons had learning challenges. I like to call them gifted with issues.
Yes.
Um, they're
Very.
brilliant, but yet they don't know where their shoes, their backpack, their homework, their lunch.
Yes.
The list was long. And I also had those struggles as a mom, and I know exactly what you're talking about because you think this just we're in the United States. This should not
Right.
be. And I'm at home here to like fight for my child. And I fought. I was wow. Yeah, we could have a whole other bottle of wine
Oh
about
yeah.
that.
Yeah. It's a whole conversation. It's, that it's
It's
it's really hard because you have
and
to fight for them. You have to,
right
they have to have an advocate.
and at the end of the day, we've learned education changed so much since we went to school, and we've learned more about how kids learn and where our kids' strengths and how they process information and how
Yeah.
people process, whether they're audible or visual or kinesthetic learners and all those different things. Um, but I think for you to have the empathy, the connection, the wherewithal to see someone you don't even know and to put yourself in her shoes and then to act on it is extraordinary and beautiful. I mean, it's exceptional, and I always love to know what inspires someone to act. So then you say, okay, I need to do something to help mothers that are struggling with, they're unhoused, their children are not going, what's happening with them in school. Where do you go from there? You come home with this thing you can't shake, and then what do you do with it?
So I just started talking to people. And at first I have to say, my thought was it needs to be done. And not I need to do it, but it needs
Right.
to be done. And I
Right.
started talking to people, and the school is called the Boyce L. Ansley School, or the Ansley School, after a woman, Boyce L. Ansley, who was a true force of nature. She was a fundraiser extraordinaire for local and national nonprofits. She was a civic leader. She brought young professionals into philanthropy and she just was really amazing. And she was a mentor of mine. And I was talking to her one day and I was telling her this story and I said, someone needs to build a school for these kids. And she said, yes, you do. And I said, no, I didn't say me. I said somebody. And she said,
Right.
if you open the school, I'll raise all the money you need because it had to be free. I mean, we couldn't charge. It had to be free.
Okay, that just took my breath away. Did
Well,
that take your breath away when she said that to you?
yeah, and she could have done it. But I hemmed and hawed, and she would not let it go. And I always say like God had put this call on my heart, and I was being really stubborn, and so He had to send Boyce to like take me the
Well,
final like minute, and so finally she wore me down, and I said, okay, I'm starting. I'm going to do some feasibility studies, and then literally within a couple of weeks, she died very unexpectedly. Um,
oh,
and so I named the school after her when we started because I thought, she was really my catalyst for like you gotta get this done. And as an aside, a lot of people have given money because they love her so much, and they would give money to anything
oh,
that had her name
that,
on it. Um,
oh,
so so we did that, but I didn't want to do it. And I started really slow. Even when I got started, I started really slowly. The first incarnation of this was a parents' morning out, and it was Tuesday mornings from 9 to 1, and it was completely run by volunteers. And it was great, except we had 8, 10, 12 year olds coming to our program every Tuesday. And I just would
where
think,
were they weren't in
why
school?
are they not at school? And
Right.
so I started talking to their parents. Well, if you don't have an address, if you don't walk around, if you don't have an address, you don't know what school to even go to.
Wow.
And if you're without housing, you likely don't have access to your immunization records and your birth certificate and all the stuff you got to get to enroll in
Right.
school. So there's so many barriers just there. The ones who did get in school, they don't have proper sleep, they don't have proper nutrition, they don't have,
Right.
clothes, and so it just
Right.
so many barriers. And so a lot of them
Wow.
just weren't going to school. And if you can't
Wow.
read they take that number, of students that can't read by
Third
the third
grade.
grade for
Right.
prison population in the future. I
Right.
mean, that is a true thing.
Yeah.
And so we just
Yeah.
can't let these kids anyway, I thought, well, this is only a Band-Aid. Got to do more. So I had
Of
focus groups
course.
with parents who are unhoused. I talked to homeless serving agencies. I went and talked to public school administrators, and they were all like, yes, yes, this is what we
Yeah,
need.
here, this is for you. You can
Here you
take
go.
this.
This is what we need.
We're going to
And
serve this up.
the public schools said to me, we can't serve these children that are unhoused because their needs are so specialized. Like we've got to serve all the kids that come in. And
Right.
when they're coming in and their first problem is that they're hungry and they're tired, like we
Right.
just don't know what to do with that.
Right.
And they just don't have, I mean, it's not that they don't want to, it's that it's
They
just
just
not, it's too
right.
complicated.
The system was not built for that.
Right.
And you had to build a new system. So talk to me
Yeah.
about the challenges. I mean, taking this on already, I mean, it's kind of a stupid question, like what were the challenges? Because already it's pretty identified that this is an enormous challenge. But talk
Yes.
to me about like just the beginnings of this for fundraising and a building and educational staff and permits and legality. I mean, it's overwhelming.
Yeah.
And I ask this question really because I think people think about nonprofits, or sometimes they think of a charity, whatever you want to refer to it as. They forget that these organizations are founded and they're businesses, And we're
Yes.
entrepreneurs at our core who
Yes.
care deeply about something. And we're running on a really bad business model where we're relying on the kindness of others to build our business.
Yeah. Oh, yes. That is so true. I've talked to so many people who have come to me since I founded the school and said, I want to start X organization. I'm going to start this. I want to found this. And I always say, wait, first of all, you got to make sure that you have the buy-in of the people in your community.
100%.
And you have to make sure that there's not already somebody doing it. Because if there's somebody
Right.
doing it already, you don't need to start it over. You need to join in.
Right.
Um,
Well, there's 1.6 million nonprofits in the United States. And it's not that we
right.
don't need another one, but I think the key word is communities, that each community has a unique set of needs. And our job is to find those needs, address them, and build connection and community around them.
Yes. Yeah. And there was nothing like this that existed. But I do see a lot of people that want to just start, they want to start it and they want it to be theirs and it already exists somewhere else, but they're going to do it a little different. And it's very, very difficult.
Yes.
And so many nonprofits fail. But
Yes.
interestingly, I had identified this need in our community through public school educators, through families, through homeless serving agencies. And so my final step was to go to the funder, to the funding community.
Right.
And none of them wanted to touch it. They all
Really?
said, well, I struggled with some of them because I didn't have a title, I didn't have any experience. They thought I
Oh,
was in over my head. So that was a
right.
big thing. I stayed home with my kid,
Right.
one woman asked me, what is your title or what do you do? And I, in like a flustered state, said, I'm just a concerned citizen. And I mean, she might as well have just patted me on the head. She goes, oh, you're in way over your head. I was like,
But
okay, great.
no one who started a nonprofit. Okay, I did interview a guy the other day who had three businesses before he started a nonprofit. So he had an advantage. But 99.9% of people who start nonprofits, that at least that I've talked to, they've never started a nonprofit. When I started a nonprofit in 2002 to provide chaplains of all faith at Children's Hospital, I'd never started a nonprofit. I was staying home with my kids. I was in sales and marketing. I didn't know anything about that except being philanthropic. My point is that that's what entrepreneurs do.
Right.
We problem solve and we create something that wasn't there. Period.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Right? There's no
Yes.
blueprint for it. You just do it. We're doers. And
Yes.
nonprofit founders are doers with passion and a heart, which just drives them at a rate that I think really goes past the business population personally,
I
but
do. And I
that's
think it's really important. There's a difference in a do-gooder and a change maker. And I just think it's
yes,
really
I agree.
important. A do-gooder, does good until it gets tough. And then they're like, oh, I'm out. And a
Right.
change maker, a founder, it keeps on going, even when it just looks, ridiculous. But the other important thing is that you go and like we started the parents morning out, it wasn't really what needed. A lot of people would have just kept going with that idea because well, we're going, path of
Right.
least resistance.
Right.
But it's not helping. I mean, it's not really
It's
doing
a
what
band-aid. It's a band-aid.
exactly. So you got to be willing to also, change course, say, that's not right. We're going to try something else. And
Right. And
yeah.
keep going. So talk to me about, I mean, you have four children,
Hmm.
you're starting this school, you're starting this
Yes.
organization, and you still have laundry, you still have kids that have homework, you still have life, and you're starting this business. I mean, what was fueling you when it was really hard to keep moving forward? And people were saying, oh, honey, I'm not going to give you any money, or, oh, whatever
Yes.
they were saying. As roadblocks are being presented to you, what was fueling you to keep going through these challenges?
My kids and my husband were so supportive. It was so sweet. My kids were so proud of me.
Oh,
They love to go out. In fact, my oldest son, he was in college and he had blocked me from his Instagram page. I'm going to college and I don't want my mom looking at my Instagram
right.
anymore. And his girlfriend told me, your son posted the sweetest thing on Instagram about you and how proud he was of you. And I was like, really? And she showed it to me and I was like,
Oh,
oh, just, so it kept me going. And the once the school opened, the families and the children kept me going because they're just precious. And you just look at them and you just think, I can't not do this for you. I just
Right.
can't, you deserve this. You are just the sweetest thing and you deserve this. You have worth, you have dignity, and
Yeah.
so it was the relationships that really
Right.
that really,
That fueled you.
sustained me. Yeah.
That fueled you. I laugh when I started. My kids were like 6 and 4 and 2 when I started nonprofit, and they used to tell everyone, "Oh, my mom is the president of Children's Hospital." No, I was not a. I was a volunteer and started a nonprofit within to support the
Yes.
hospital. And but my kids thought, when they were little, what did your mom do? My mom was a president of the hospital. Like, oh,
Oh,
no, honey, no, sweetie.
no, no. But that's very
but
nice.
but
Thank
I'm
you.
really glad that you think that. That's really lovely.
Yes,
so,
yes. So,
so
they're
talk
great.
to me about, and I know with education, and I really struggle. I really struggle with the word impact because as someone, I run a youth leadership organization during the day, and I have to write these grants, and I have to measure leadership, which is a very hard thing to measure,
Right.
and I have to measure my impact. And you and I both know that you can say this test score or this many hours or this many children served, but that isn't really the impact that we're making. Impact isn't, it's not always just those statistics. It's qualitative and quantitative. But talk to me what success to you was when you're doing this work. Like what did that look like for you?
Well, there were a lot of different things, but one story that I think is interesting that really sticks out to me is at the end of our first quarter of being open as a school, and we had uniforms we called them scholars. They had uniforms. They had white, like, little polo shirts with the
Right,
school logo on it, and they wore navy skirts or pants or whatever, and it was just really all sweet. And we gave them their uniforms. And so at the end of the first quarter, we had a parent meeting. And we said, so well, let's talk about what worked well, what didn't work well. We're building this together as a team, with these families.
right.
And nobody said anything. Nobody said anything. And then one woman raised her hand and she said, the white uniform tops are hard. Well, we had specifically picked white because I'm thinking in my mind, like, you can bleach them and they'll stay,
Right, right.
whatever. Well, you don't know what you don't know.
About
And when you're
laundry.
living on the street or you're living in a shelter, you don't have access to laundry in the
Right,
same
to laundry.
way. And they were having trouble keeping the shirts. I mean, they look
Clean.
terrible. And I said, well, what would be better? And they said, maybe navy blue. And I was like, okay. So I didn't think a thing about it. I went and got some sort resources, and we
Right.
ordered the navy blue monogrammed golf shirts. And when we brought them and handed them out, the mothers were absolutely just shocked. No one ever listens to what we say, they said. No one ever
Wow.
listens to us. We have no voice in the world. And it's true. They do,
Right.
they don't, especially when children are involved. Hidden homeless people are invisible because they don't want they just want the best for their children. They don't want anybody to take them away. They don't want to call too much attention to themselves.
Right.
People dismiss them, and just it really changed the entire mood of the school.
And the dialogue. They now knew
Yeah.
that they had a say.
Yeah, and that was really important to me, that they knew that we were all a team. We were doing this together.
And how many students have gone through? What year did you start?
So we started in 2018. We
Okay.
started with a pre-K, and the plan was just to add one grade every year. We wanted to go really slowly to make sure that we could, which I think is very important when you're starting a nonprofit, to just,
Right.
little bits at a time.
Little at a
So
time.
we started with a pre-K with a goal of going all the way through the eighth grade. And in our first pre-K class, we had 11 scholars.
Oh.
Those scholars are now in the fifth grade, and
Oh.
9 of them are still in the school. Nine
Oh,
of
that's
them.
so
Yeah. And
great.
so there is a school across the street from our school that is a high school. Cristo Rey. It's a
Oh, I
Jesuit
know Cristo
model.
Rey.
There's a lot of
I
Cristo Reys.
chaired I chaired the I was the chair of the board of Urban Day in Watts for Cristo Rey. So I
Okay.
chaired
So
that school. So I'm very familiar with Cristo Rey
yeah, so there's a lot of
model.
Cristo Rey, models all around, and so we have one right across the street. And so I went over and met with the principal there, and we have an agreement with them that when our scholars graduate, that they can come to Cristo Rey. And as you know, if you go to Cristo Rey, you can go to college if you want to.
It's
Uh,
100%. I mean,
They make it
100% of the
happen,
kids
right?
go to college and they
Yeah,
all
and
live in
so
poverty and they all go to college.
you look at these kids who were just not even going to school, and now they're looking at going to college.
Oh, I love that. I
And it's
love
just
that.
thrilling. So I think there are about 100 young scholars at the school now.
Oh my gosh. That's
Yeah,
amazing.
yeah.
That is amazing to me. So what's the big is the big dream for the Ainsley School that all the students go to college? Is that what's the big dream for the school that
So, and I think this is a conversation that we need to have more as a society. Not every person wants to go to college. Not every
correct?
person needs to go to college. There are amazing careers that you can get without a college education,
And
trades.
huge trade gaps right now. We have
Yeah,
such a deficit in
and you can make a
construction and
tremendous living. And
yes,
for some scholars, that's the choice. But
right.
the goal is for them to have a choice, to have
That's
a choice
great.
when they
Right?
get to into high school, that they have, that no doors have been closed. Um,
I love that.
so
I love that.
that's what I would love to see with these kids. Yeah.
Well, I love that not only have you, because whenever you're a founder, you're a dreamer, you always have a dream, you always have a
Hmm.
plan, you also have a vision,
Yes.
and you always have kind of, you're not only for your organization, but for your own life and what you're doing next. So, speaking of dreams, talk to me a little bit about your book, Once Upon a School. I mean,
Yes.
that's an incredible accomplishment. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. Well, it took me a while to kind of flesh this out because, as when you're in and you're building an organization, it's you're just very busy. There's a lot to
Right.
do. I mean,
Yes, there is.
founders, I'm working with an organization right now, and I told the founder, I said, what I would like for you to do is to write down everything you do in a day, because we could never hire somebody to do your job.
No,
So what we need to do is figure out how to structure things so that we could actually, when you're ready to leave, hire somebody, it's an
right,
actual job that an actual person can sustain.
right, right.
So you get stuck in that, and you can't really go much further. So it was really hard, but I realized that really my dream was not to run the day-to-day operations of a school. My dream was to start this movement. And like Cristo Rey, I would love to see schools like this happen all over the country,
Oh, I love
um,
that.
because they can. And so I, through this really um, providential twist of fate, I was connected with a woman in Pittsburgh who's wanted to start a school similar to the Ansley School, and we were connected. And it's a really crazy long story, but we were correct connected. And now I've been working with her and her group to help them start the school. But as I told them, was telling them about the journey and supporting them, I
Right,
realized this was a great journey. Like, I need to write this down.
right.
And so I just started writing and writing. And then all of a sudden, wow, like this could actually be a book that people might want to read.
Isn't that
Um,
amazing?
yeah,
I love
yeah,
that. I'm a
yeah.
first time author. My book came out in October
That's so
and
exciting.
it's a commitment. It's a
Yeah.
commitment. I mean, it's so exciting, but it is I'll say it's like running. You start running and it's so hard and you feel like your cement legs and so heavy and you can barely move.
Yes.
You get a stride and then all of a sudden you're like, okay, I got this. And like once you're
Right,
like at
right.
chapter 4, you're almost like downhill. Like I think I can get there. Like it's something happens that you switch gears and you're going a little faster.
Yes. And I remember I had a writing coach, and she said, a book is about 60,000 words. And I was like, okay. So I start writing, and I'm like, okay, 100.
What is
200.
that word count? I would constantly copy and
Right. You're
paste
just
and then get the
staring at it
word
the
count.
whole time.
How many?
Really?
Because it was like, is it 10,000? I forget how many words is in a chapter, but
Yeah.
I would look at that every chapter. Oh, how many more words do I
Oh,
need?
oh, I thought I had written so many words. Yes, yes. Yeah.
But
So
I love. So tell me, is the book your whole journey, or is the book just this journey?
the book is about the school, and the first half of the book is about building the school, and about my real dream of supporting children without housing and the children that are going to fall through the cracks in our system. The second half of the book is about how it's really complicated to be a founder. And part of being a founder, as we talked about, good,
Amen.
do-gooders and change makers, is
Right.
things get really hard and really complicated. And we opened our doors in 2018, and we didn't close during COVID, because we couldn't. I mean, where were they going to
Where were
go?
they going to go?
What were they
Right.
going to do? And so we stayed open, and so it was hard, and it was hard for everybody.
It was hard for everybody. Right.
And so anyway, because things get complicated, I did not get along or did not agree with a lot of the things that the board of directors was asking me to do. And there's a lot of things that I would coach people on how to do
Right.
that differently. But it just got to the point where I couldn't stay. I just couldn't
Right.
stay. And so I walked away. And it
And
was awful, absolutely awful.
it's one of the things that when you start a business, a regular business, if you're, selling pencils or whatever, you don't necessarily need a board of directors. But when
Right.
you are starting a nonprofit, I always tell my board, okay, you're my map and you're my headlights, and I'm driving the car. If you even think you're getting in my car, if you think you're getting in my back seat and telling me what to do, if you think you're getting in my front seat, I'm going to run over you very slowly and back and forth a couple times. But if you want to light the way and show me and guide me and tell me where you want the car to go, that's my job to get it there. And I will
Right.
do that every time. But do not get out of your lane and do not get in the car. Do
Yeah.
not get in the car. And
Yes.
and so here we are doing this work, and I've been a founder, but I'm executive director for a different nonprofit, not the one I started. And board challenges are legit. And
Yeah.
and you have 12 to 22 people who, some are more active than others, who want to maybe micromanage you and maybe get in your kitchen and tell you how to cook and tell you what to
Yeah.
do. And it is a whole other role that we're doing besides driving the vision of the organization that the board is hopefully giving us, taking
Yes.
it there
Yes.
while executing everything and then trying
Right.
to get them out of your car.
Yes. Well, and during COVID, it was hard because I mean, we
No one
were on,
knew. Right.
they weren't on stat, they weren't on site. They were at home, the board,
Right. So they had
I
lots
was,
of time to think about what
I
to
was
tell you to
there in
do.
the building, and,
Right.
they didn't tell me I had to leave, but the things that they were saying that they wanted the school to be were not, their dream diverged from my dream.
Right.
And so I
And I
just walked away. Yeah.
and I think that happens a lot. And I
Yeah.
mean, there could be a whole other episode, and I've been interviewing a bunch of podcasts for founders syndrome, which is not something that you suffer, not something that I suffer. I walked away from the nonprofit I founded, not because of a board issue, but for a different reason. They were just holding on to everything that we always did and not looking at new leadership to drive it
Right.
forward. And I said, I'm not going to be here
Right.
forever. You guys have to keep looking ahead. And so founders walk away all the time. Good
Hmm.
founders walk away all the time. Also, when they love the organization, they know when to walk away. The founder that stays too long, they're not always doing a service for their organization,
Well, it
because the
can kill the
organization,
organization.
right, it becomes about the founder. It's like, I'm just going to say Martha Stewart magazine. You know, Martha Stewart's amazing, but she walks away from her magazine, there's nobody else who's going to be on the cover of that magazine, right? I mean,
Yeah.
that's just not going to happen. And nonprofits, we still have people we're serving. We have people, children need to be educated, or in my case, chaplains that needed to be paid to help
Right.
families. So we need to have a longevity plan, and we need to know that when we're walking away, we're doing it for the greater good of the organization.
Yes,
And that is okay. And that is okay. There should be no shame with that, because what you have done is remarkable, Kate. It's remarkable. It's
it is. It's
remarkable.
so, thank you. I'm so close to all the families at the school still. And
I
I
love
visit
that.
them and I talk to them. And of course they call me when they're mad about stuff going on at the school. And I say, go talk to the head of school,
Right.
go talk to them.
Right.
But they're all doing so well. And it's I miss it. But as I said, I did not start an organization to run the day to day of a school. You
Right.
know what? That was not that
Right.
was not bringing me tons of
Right.
joy.
But
But
you
what brings me
fulfilled
joy is
your
this.
mission, right? You
Yeah,
fulfilled your mission, which was to
yeah,
build it and create it.
right.
Doesn't And you did that, and you did
Yeah,
that. So
yeah.
talk to me about kind of some of the life lessons you've learned since taking this journey on in 2018. I mean, there's been a lot, I'm sure.
Yes,
So
yes.
talk to
I
me
think
about,
for me, the biggest issue that keeps coming up is that I needed to trust myself. I was doing all of the right things. I knew, I didn't know what I was doing, but I knew what I knew, and I was
right,
aware of what I didn't know. I was talking to people, and the school was flourishing. We
right.
raised we it was a $2 million budget, and I raised that
Wow.
every year pretty much all by myself, while
That's
building the school.
amazing.
Just amazing.
That's
And
amazing.
but I still had people telling me, oh, you haven't been in the business world, you don't know, you stayed home with your kids, you don't know, bless your heart, all of that. And I'm from the South. and
Right. I was
um
gonna say
and
that's so
I
Southern.
you're right, bless your heart.
Bless your
Which
heart.
by the way is not a compliment in the South.
Right.
It
Yes,
it
I'm
is an
aware.
insult veiled veiled as a compliment. Yeah, but what I was doing was working. I mean, the evidence was all around me. So I look
Right.
back now and I think I should have trusted myself more. I should
Right.
have trusted
Well,
myself more.
but when you're doing something for the first time, you just don't know what you don't know.
Right.
And
Yeah.
and you just have to keep going through it as you
Yes.
figure it out. I mean, it's there's so many things that happen,
Yes.
and I think we all have that voice in our head that makes us, I was fighting 100-year-old institution and saying, like, we need a chapel, and I'm like, you built a whole new hospital and you didn't put in a facility for a chapel? Like, wait, what? I mean, wait, what? Like, what?
Yes.
After we built you this
Yes.
whole apartment, you have nowhere to put them? And the fights that I took on, we ended up kicking McDonald's out and putting a fabulous $10 million interfaith center in McDonald's.
Wow.
But
Wow.
yeah, it was amazing. But the battles and the lessons and the crazy things that when you only see them in the rearview mirror, right?
Right.
You only see them in hindsight. You just don't see them going. You're just like, okay, I've got another obstacle today. I've got another obstacle today.
Yes. Yes.
What's happening today? Okay, what am I
Yes.
getting my armor on and I'm ready to go, right?
Yeah, and
So
I think it's a whole personality. I mean, it's in the DNA of a person to be a founder. Not everybody is called to be a founder. And
no,
and that's okay.
it's okay.
There's a lot of people that are called to do a lot of different things. There are people that are actually called to run. So I always think this is so fun to run day-to-day operations of places.
Yeah,
You know
they
what?
love it.
That's not me.
Nope, that's not me. I mean, I'm executive director, but I have people
Right.
that do the other
And I
stuff.
can do it, but it
Right,
doesn't bring me joy.
right.
And there's people that truly brings joy. And for me, building something truly brings joy.
Right.
And so I think it's, um, you're just because you're able to do something doesn't mean that's what you're called to do. And I think that's a really important
I
thing to know, to remember.
I think that is. Do you think that you've changed at all since this has happened?
I do. I've changed a lot. I have
How
much better
so?
boundaries now.
Okay.
Much better boundaries
Right.
about, and I trust myself a lot more. And I think that, yeah, I think those are the main things. And I guess I'm more aware of the issue with children's education, and the pitfalls that these children without housing face in their life. I knew that it was a thing, But now I feel
Right.
like I can really go out and be a voice for them because I've so personally understand it from being in such close relationship with so many people that are going through it. It's one thing to
And
think you understand it from this level,
right.
but until you walk the walk with
Till you
them,
walk it with
you
them and
don't
you're in
know.
every last in your
Yeah.
in the day-to-day life with them,
Yeah.
you don't understand. And I think that's possibly your next journey because
Yes, I think probably so.
oh, and do I have a laundry list of people I can connect you with when we wrap up this conversation? I
Oh,
have so many great
great.
ideas. My brain is ticking off. So tell me where we can support you, where we can find you, where we can find your social media books, where we can get your book, Once Upon a School.
Yes.
Tell us where we can get all of that. This is so
So
fantastic,
my
Kate.
website is Kate Kennedy Writes, WRITES, .com. And everything is on there. And all my Instagram and my Facebook and my LinkedIn is on there. My book is also available on the website, but then you can get it at all the places, Barnes and Noble, Amazon. And even I love to plug my new favorite bookstore, which is bookshop.org. Are you familiar with that?
No, tell me about it.
It is a nonprofit.
I
In
might need
fact,
to interview them.
I wonder who the founder
Yeah,
is.
founder is.
I'll have to look that up. But it's
Me
a
too.
nonprofit that supports independent bookstores. And so they are
Oh,
completely nonprofit. And you can put in there the independent bookstore that you want to support when you purchase the book, your local one or whatever, because independent bookstores can't always afford to just order every book.
they're
So if you go to
struggling. Yeah.
bookshop.org, you can put in or they'll just send it to whatever, one of their independent bookstores.
I love that.
It's great.
This is fantastic. I absolutely need
Yes.
to reach out to them. Well, hopefully you'll be a guest for this sometime. Kate, you are amazing. You are a
Thank you. You as
rock
well.
star. What you've done is incredible. And I think you're just getting started. I think your school namesake, Miss Ainsley, is an angel watching over you and
I
guiding
think
you
probably so.
through a lot of this. And I think I don't think she's done with you yet. I think you have a lot of great
Oh,
work ahead of you.
goodness.
So I don't know if you're going to come back with another nonprofit, but I feel like this is not going to be the last time that we hear from Kate Kennedy. I have
Well, thank you.
a very great feeling about it. Thank you so much for sharing your story. You are amazing.
No, I appreciate you having me, and you're amazing as well.
Thanks, Kate. Thank you for listening to this week's episode of the Charity Matters podcast. I really enjoyed talking to our guest, Kate Kennedy, about what it takes to start a business that truly changes people's lives. I think her comment about learning to trust yourself was so inspiring and true. To learn more about these modern day heroes, or if you'd like to reach out to us, visit us at charity-matters.com or connect with us on Instagram at Charity Matters. If you enjoyed our conversation, we would love it if you shared it with your family and friends. And please don't forget to subscribe and leave a review. But more than that, thank you for caring, for believing in goodness, and for being a part of our movement. You are exactly what the world needs more of. Remember that together we can make a difference, one small act of kindness at a time. Charity matters.